We're back. We're not gone for very long, but we are back. 2024 Century at the Plantation at Kapalua. Our betting preview here at Betsperts Golf. I'm excited to get in this little pocket of time here. This is my little time with Andy every Tuesday morning. Joining me as always, Andy Molitor. What's going on, bud?
It's fucking Wednesday, bud.
I know, but
Yeah,
you know,
this week got weird. We had some tech issues. We had some scheduling issues. The fact that we had one fewer days. Normally this will be 11 Eastern on Tuesdays. In case you're wondering, that is going to be a time we're going to stick to from now on. God help us, God willing, the creek don't rise. Otherwise, no, I'm excited. It's not a full field, but it's a real tournament. It's the start of the 2024 season. We've got things sorted out. We've got a pretty good field because it is, the Tournament of Champions. They're just not calling it that anymore. So basically, anybody who won who wants to compete. Obviously, some of the live guys are not invited. Rory is traditionally not someone who comes here because he does like to play those 3 or 4 events early in the season over in the Middle East, which is ironic, I guess, all things considered, considering his stances. He did do some Patrick Peterson backpedaling today, though.
oh, buddy,
Elite,
yes, sir.
elite cornerback Patrick or Rory McIlroy, which whatever, I'm fine. I do love the golf drama and whatnot that comes around with everything. But no, it's a good field, right? Because not only the the winners, but they're adding anyone who was in the top 50. So it's basically just a bunch of good golfers, small field, no cut, resort course.
Yeah, like you said, we dropped the Tournament of Champions moniker because they have expanded the field because you do have the top 50 finishers that didn't win last season's FedEx Cup standing. So we 59 of the 60 because, as you mentioned, Rory starting next week in Dubai. Our last 2 defending champs are not here as well. Obviously, we have John Rahm and Cam Smith. They're now, they are growing the game
Living
on
it up.
their different tour currently. So they are growing the game. But yeah, obviously having but this has changed now too. We also have this as a signature event. We are done with elevated events. We're done with designated events. We have signature events for 2024, and this is the start of the season. So this is like typically the start of the calendar year, but because the last decade or so, we've had that wonky swing season stuff where like the Fortinet was the start of the season.
Yeah.
We're done with that. This is actually the start of the season. We're starting it here because it's a signature event. The pot of gold at the end of the rainbow here, the FedEx Cup points attached to it are massive as well. So we do have incentive for these guys to hit the ground running in resort course. No cut events. We have a bunch of those this year. A lot of these signature events are going to be that limited field, no cut, which I don't think we love, but we'll see how it kind of comes out. And I think I like having a full field. I like having the cut. Some of those are still going to be like that, but this is kind of a new era. And maybe, again, another transition year. We thought very much 2023 was a transition year, but 2024 feels like a transition year in terms of where the professional game is as well. So, but again, we get the aesthetics of Kapalua and the Plantation course. We get like PM golf because of like the time zone difference. So especially if you're like, Central or East Coast, you're going to get like prime time golf here on the weekend, which is just absolutely lovely. Tune in, and obviously Maui is a fantastic scene for golf to have in the background. So it's a great way to start the season and then get us going here. So.
Good timing for that too, with the distinct lack of Thursday night football this week.
It's true.
The distinct lack of bowl games until we get to the national championship next week. So Thursday, and like you said, East Coast, even Mountain and Pacific guys, it's not like it's in the early hours of the morning. It is still afternoon into the evening for some of that. You can watch golf all Thursday afternoon on Thursday and Friday. That's gonna be lovely for me. Obviously, I do enjoy this tournament. I love. I've played here. It's not at this course, at the other course in the same resort, which is apparently even easier, as I go shoot like 110. And then you go, I think I tell this story every year, but it's like, oh, this is a long course for me. This is actually kind of hard. And then you go out there and watch, somebody win this event every year with like 25 under. And that's kind of where we're at as we'll kind of transition over here. Not going to be a deep dive into this course. There's not a ton to say about it, but there's a few things. And definitely if you want a deeper dive, I will link Ron's course preview in the show notes here. That's a good one if you want to read. He is putting even more extensive course previews together this year, but it is an easy-ish par 3. I mean, it is, like we said, a resort course. It consistently will rank as one of the easier courses on the tour. The score, like we said, low to mid 20s. What was Cam Smith's score in like 2022?
34 under.
Yeah, 34 under. So, I mean, if the winds don't kick up off the ocean and it's just nice out, you could land a 747 on these fairways. Even if you miss them, it's not an issue. There's some downhill runouts where you can drive the ball a country mile. The greens are fairly sizable.
Huge.
And, I mean, you're just going to give yourself a ton. Like, basically, hitting 18 greens is very distinct possibility for some of these guys. They all have a birdie or better rate. 15 of the 18 holes have a birdie or better rate of 13% of higher. It is truly a second shot birdie fest kind of course. Get there, get to the green, putt well in Bermuda. I mean, a lot of it is maybe some people who don't play well here. That's the only thing that they're going to struggle with is like, oh, I couldn't make my putts because I don't play all that well in Bermuda, or the slow greens kind of messed me up a little. And I shot, I couldn't get anything lower than a 68 all week. I was like, oh, well, you finished 35th at 18 under.
Yeah, it is, there's some interesting quirks to the course. I mean, it is obviously, I think, as you said, the massive fairways. When guys miss fairways here, it's typically because they out drove the fairway. Like there's so much run out and the elevation changes, because you have some of these just insane downhill shots where you just get so much extra carry and then run out too. So especially if it's like dried out and we don't have any rain and it's not windy, like, missed fairways typically are long, more so than like shanked left or right, which is definitely interesting. It also is very hard to miss the greens, but because like they're huge, but they're tiered. So you want to be in the right spot of the green. So, we will, participate with a drinking game with us this season. We're going to say, hey, this is the second shot course. That's probably going to be 85-90% of the courses are a second shot course. But again, like off the tee matters so little here, even distance, because I think everyone kind of gets distance. When you look at like the longest drives of the year last year, I think like the top 6 or 7 are here. Like the majority of the top 20 are all here. Even guys that actually aren't known for distance whatsoever can just catch the right hill, the right lie, and get some run out. So before we jump into it too, I want to let folks know we're really excited about a couple of things we have going on this year. One is our database. Now calling it the rabbit hole. We're going to go down the rabbit hole and kind of model some stuff out for you too. If you want to get access to it, we've partnered with Vivid Picks to bring you a really easy way to claim a free, no strings attached 2024 season with us at Betsperts Golf. You can head over to the site. We'll link it here in the show notes as well. You basically, if you're not familiar with Vivid Picks, Vivid Seats, it's the same company. Vivid Picks is like a pick'em site similar to some other ones out there, like like Underdog or Prize Picks. If you sign up with them, use promo code Betsperts Golf, deposit and play $5. They will match your deposit up to $250. So if you want to play over there with us, we'll have some Vivid content all season long as well. I'll maybe talk about it on the shows. I'll have an article as well. But you can do it for just $5 and play, and you can play other sports. You want to like play Vivid Picks for NFL football playoffs this week? You do that as well. Playoffs next week, like whatever. You don't have to play it on golf, but use promo code Betsperts Golf when you sign up at Vivid, and you'll get an email and you get access to our entire season, all the articles, tools, bets, Discord, all that for $5. So more info in the show notes. Just go to betspertsgolf.com. You'll find an article with all the details over there as well. So really excited about that partnership this year. We'll be talking about it quite a bit.
$5 is less than 200 because that's what the full price for the, which, and honestly, I think it's a very reasonable price for a custom stats database that lets you build custom models, save it. And not only that, and something we were trying to do last year, and we were just needed to update a little more of the tech, which we have over the course of the off season. You, with the access, can look at our models. It just can be under like, hey, there's a button, expert models. I already got mine saved. Mine's pretty simplistic this week. I'm probably going to update it, but every week, Ron Noonan and myself will put our models in there. And if you have access, You can just go look at how I rank the 59 golfers this week, according to, and I'm going to label them how I'm using it. This is more of a course fit model because I know all these golfers are pretty good. There's not a big delta between 1 and 59 like we have between, some of the, hey, Scotty's in this tournament, but there's also some Monday qualifiers. Like there's a big difference between guys like that. Obviously here it's a smaller gap like the NFL compared to college football kind of stuff. But this week I did go with the course fit one. And I think Ryan's going to kind of show you what he put together for this week as well.
Yeah, we'll walk through. We'll just kind of talk through, I think, the stats that matter, see what it spits out, and then kind of go through the betting board. As you said, it's, other than Rory, we're loaded in terms of what we have here. So, I'm again, I love this course so much. It's nice because, you and I are like just knee deep in football. So like, it's really hard to like flip the switch and go to golf. And then like, it's really nice to have it here where we can just, it's nice to have on the background. It makes, we're both in like the Midwest, it's cold weather and you just see Kapalua and it's like, all right, we're in it.
It makes you want to take a vacation. I am going
1,000%.
I'm going to Napa in a few weeks. It's not quite as warm there, but man, it does make you want to go back. And yeah, and obviously if you like scenery and good looking golf courses, it's gorgeous. It was a little away from the fires. The fires were in Lahaina. This is a little closer to, I don't know, like that beach, that beach with the big black cliff that they show every time when you watch the Maui Invitational. It's the same like B-roll footage. They use all the same shots going in and out of commercials. You're going to see a bunch of whales cresting and shit like that. It's very beautiful. So yeah, Thigawa. Thigawa is a popular name this week, but I don't know. Let's kind of talk about stats that matter for the week, because I think there are, certain skill sets that play better here if you're good at certain things. We'll see how much of that we overlap with, because I have a few thoughts. I don't know. Let's start with you. What do you think, Ryan?
In terms of what matters here, because you mentioned too, it's a second shot course. Now, again, we have a unique track too. We're a par 73, and it is long, but it does not play long. And when you read the quotes, Andy's experience aside, for these guys, this does not play long. You have you get the extra par 4 instead of the par 3, and you get a lot of wedges. So these guys are hitting driver and wedge, and a lot like partial wedges, because you have a lot of, when you look at like what's higher than a normal standard event, it's like the sub 100 range. So you're getting a lot of like, it's almost like short game extended, because this is where we talked about where you have like the runoff into the rough because you outdrove the fairway here. So approach from like really close in matters. You talked about slow Bermuda greens. I think that's impactful here too. I think overall experience playing here matters a little bit too. You do have some, and you're trying to like find corollary courses. I think you do see a little bit of like, and this is kind of crazy because you're going to have a guy probably, if the weather holds, finishing in like the upper 20s. Yeah. Augusta gets kind of called on a little bit because you have, the wide open fairways. You're not really punished off the tee in terms of like wayward drives. Distance helps, but I'm not giving distance any credence this week because I do think you see, everyone kind of, pop in distance here. So like it helps a little bit, but like everyone's reaching the par 5s and everyone has a wedge in here. So I want you to be really good with your wedge. I want you to be able to score. You got to get birdies in bunches, take advantage of the par 5s, be able to, knock some birdies out at a higher rate on the par 4s as well. So can you pull me up here? Is this, I don't know why I can't share this. So I see my little screen. There we go. Awesome. All right, well, let's walk through this here. Again, this is the first time you've seen this. This is our rabbit hole. This is, again, our customizable stat database where you can build custom models. It is very, very straightforward and easy to use. If you don't know how, or you want to get some help, there's a little tutorial button here. That's for me last year. I could probably update it. We are pushing through another massive tech load here in the next probably 24 to 48 hours. We're going to have some even more filters and stats here. There are stats and filters in this tool that you cannot use anywhere else. Any other spots that allow you to do this, we have some unique stats that you cannot put into pre-tournament customizable rankings. You also cannot take and cut it up into a CSV and do other stuff with it. And you cannot see anyone else's rankings. So we do feel like we have some unique selling propositions here for you that I think are fun to play around with. And again, for $5, check that out on the Vivid deal. So But let's go through it here. I mean, the betting board is also interesting, and we'll talk through that once we spit some stuff out, Andy. But what's your first stat? If you're going to give me one stat here that you want to model this week, what's your first one?
So I did start to put something together. Like I said, obviously, I think I erased it after we did that tech update. So I have to remake my model again, which is not going to be that difficult. But this is one where, hey, greens and regulation is usually something I'm looking at. Can't do it this week, not even a little bit. Everybody, it's one of those where it's not like I need to go negative on this and say that's bad if you're good at greens and regulation, but something that is usually off the top of the model that I add almost every week is some sort of either greens and regulation, going for greens hits, going for greens birdies are better, nothing in that range. On the fairway approach accuracy view there, Ryan.
Yep.
I am going to add a couple buckets there. I'm just going to rebuild my model right now in the background while you're doing it.
We're good.
But, a couple of those, the fairway, probably fairway 50 to 75 and 75 to 100, because there are going to be so many shots, like you said, where people are going to be taking shots from 50 to 100 yards in. And yeah, everybody on tour is pretty good at their short wedges, but there are guys who are better. And like you said, some of this is, like we're doing here, it's proximity, because some of that is going to matter with the multifaceted, multi-tiered, undulated greens. It's not just hitting a green. Like hitting a green from 100 yards out, it sometimes can be a 3-putt still. Getting a really close proximity, shot after shot, hole after hole, to let yourself have these 10 to 15 footers on these Bermuda greens on the right tier within, striking distance of the hole. That's going to matter a lot to make you a score here.
Yep. I like it. So you can see here we are defaulting to 6-month time frame in all rounds, but you can obviously drop this down. You can go back to your last 2 months, last month, last 5 years, and then here as well.
50. I like to do 50 rounds. 50. I go 6. My standard. Maybe this is something fun we can do throughout the year that you can talk me out of my comfort zones. My standards are always 6 months, last 50 rounds. I don't like to go a lot further. Obviously, when we run into a beginning of the year like this, it's a little different. So I didn't want to go 6 months because there's some guys that just haven't played for like 2 or 3. So I went 9 months. I feel like that's close to what 6 months is going to look like when I'm doing this in the middle of the year. So last 50 rounds over the last 9 months.
Okay. We'll do that. We'll go 50 for 9 in season when these guys are playing every week. Like I like to take a look at, and I might not weigh it, but I want to take a look to see if there's anyone popping, looking at the last, say 12, 16, 20 rounds, because that's the last 3, 4, 5 events. You just want to see if there's anything happening in the short term that you might miss. I do think in terms of golf metrics in general, probably having the longest view in the room is probably the best way to go, which is I think what Andy's talking about here. So we'll add this here. You can see all you need to do is click on this little plus button. We're going to talk about fairways 50 to 75. You can make a little note to yourself. We go fairways 50, 75. And this is just for yourself. Last 9 months, last 50 rounds. And again, this is nothing that you need to do. That you have to do. This is just personal. So let's see here. We'll add that, and that will be in there when I go and get it. I'll do the same for 75 to 100 as well. So we'll go 75 to 100. Pretty straightforward. And again, I'm going to skip that for sake of the show now, but again, that's just for your notes, and I'll show you where you could find that in later on.
All right. What are you thinking?
So I do think because you got to
scoring metrics,
some scoring metrics there. Let's just also capture the slow Bermuda greens here and show people how they can do that too. So you can go to the filter by condition here. This pulls up all sorts of stuff. You can see all the different things that you can cut this up into: par, length, event type, rounds, length, green size, all that stuff. What I want here is we got slow Bermuda greens here. I want to capture slow Bermuda greens.
Make this even bigger.
Oh, there you go. Nice.
You don't need to see us.
No. We're going to apply that. Let's see. I also think, especially for putting, you want to have some pretty long, views in terms of, getting a sample size that matters. As you can see, there's nothing that even has happened in the last 9 months that captures this. So let's go 4 years and 50 rounds. We're not going to get 50 rounds for most guys. We will go into the putting section. You can break into, this is again going to give you strokes gained putting, 3-putt avoidance, three putt avoidance from 25 plus feet, which I think matters, and approach putting
basically
too.
lag putting. Like, how's your
Yes.
lag putting, bud?
And again, these are things that are harder for you to find anywhere else. There's also some putting range buckets if you want to get into here. Let's just capture just strokes gained putting using this metric. We'll add it. We'll go last 50, last 4 years, slow Bermuda. And we're going to add that. We capture that. I do think we need some scoring as well here. So let's get off of this. We'll clear this filter. And we'll get into some scoring stuff too. Because I think we can change how we weigh it, but I think you want to have some scoring metrics here too. You can see you can also get into specific buckets on par 3, par 4, par 5 scoring. We have some upgrades coming and some pushes there as well. But how should we capture scoring here, Andy? What do you think?
I do want to take a quick time out as well too.
Yeah.
When we get to the end of this and we create this model, it'll save. And if you label it, hey, this is my Sentry model, let's say you do pretty well. It's worth remembering because you can save this model and just rerun it with next year's field. It's already made there for you. It'll just update. In fact, the weird thing is you can just say, I want to run the Sentry model at, here's somewhere that wouldn't, like Detroit, where it's the wrong model for sure. Like, it'll take the Detroit field and tell you, well, if you apply all these metrics that you thought were important in Hawaii to Detroit, here's who's good, which would be a terrible idea. I'm just saying, if you make something like this that's specific to let's say you make a Bomber's Paradise kind of model, if you make yourself a Bermuda, a pitch and putt, a Target Golf one, you can make one a little more broad and use it, month after month, week after week, just going back and opening it up. So something to think about as far as using, because I'm going to take a little time this year and kind of think about how some of these did, go back and do some, maybe some retrospective each week and say, like, is this something I want to save for next year?
Yeah, we're going to clean this up a little bit because I still have my Sea Island model available for you. You can see here, if you click on this little link here, View Expert Rankings, you can go here and actually click any models that we've put out there as well. So you want to have access to, Andy was touching on that too. You want to see Andy's model for the week. You want to see what I built. You want to see what Ron built. You can go ahead and get access to that here as well. I think pretty useful. And you can, again, we're available in Discord at any time. Just tag us for subscribers. You can ask us our thoughts, why we did something, why we waited the way we did. I think those are all, I think, important and constructive conversations to have as well. All right, buddy, how do we want to capture scoring? Do you want to do it just straight up birdies are better? Do you want to get into anything, par 4, par 5 specific? What should we do here?
Probably just some birdies are better percentage.
Okay. We do last 50 rounds.
Yeah, let's go last 50, like kind of what I'm saying, last 50 rounds, last 9 months. I'm going to add this to mine as well.
All right, birdie are better.
And on the other end too, it should say birdies are better percentage. So you just, when you're making your notes, really, you just have to note if you're making any filter conditions like time, or, if this is only on Bermuda or something like that.
Yep, for sure. You can see the views where you can cut stuff up into, which I think is really cool. And then also the filter by condition. So these are things specifically that you can add. And if you want to see it, obviously it's defaulting to rank. We have 59 guys in the field. You want to see what the actual number is here too as well. You can click the average and get the actual number that is relevant for them as well. You can also highlight guys here on the side, make them your favorites. And then you can just show your favorites only here as well, which is, I think, some cool features.
Right. How much more do you want to add? Because I don't like to get too nuts with adding too many different conditions.
I think we're good.
A point of modeling, guys. If you add too much stuff, you're double counting. You're probably overdoing it. You're not going to get great results. Eventually, if you add too many things, it's pretty much going to line up with the betting market. Because it's like, oh, I put in the 15 most important stats. Well, all the best golfers are going to just kind of float towards the top. It's not going to give you more of a look. And this is not something I use and just say, like, I'm always betting the number one guy in my model. It's more of these are the guys that I think have the best course fit. I'm going to look at their prices. I'm going to judge where some of these numbers at. If somebody's way off and surprises me, I'm going to go look at where they played over the last, time frame and see if there was some outlier kind of, results, or maybe they played in a weird field, a weakened field that really bumped something up, because all strokes gained metrics are relative to the field. So if you put John Rahm down in the Barracuda, or the Barracuda is a bad example. It's
Mexico.
Stableford, but in the in Mexico, like his numbers are going to be quite high in something like that. It can throw things off a little.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I think we'll probably have that too, where I'm trying to pull back. There are things that I want to capture, and I think you can add some stuff and not give it weight if you want to just see what it spits out and where people are in certain metrics. But I do think weighing it specifically becomes interesting where you start to double count. So I think I'm probably more apt to do that. And I think you'll probably have to help me pull back on some of that this season. You'll see, I'm going to click this create mixed condition model button. And it's going to have some stuff that I've already put in my model. So we'll see if there's anything else that we want to add. There'll be some redundancy as well. But let's click this, and then we can talk about how we want to weigh it and go from here. So
you got a lot going on.
Well, yeah. So this is some stuff I put in birdie or better at Kapalua as well too. So capturing some of that. And again, that's like noisy because you have some guys that have never even played here. Did some of the same stuff, but I also captured some of the rough data that we touched on too, because we did these same buckets here, right? In the last, I think my sample is smaller in terms of, I think, last 24 rounds. So I just did last 6 rounds.
That's nice too. So if you forget what you did, you can hover over that and it'll tell you all the filters you put in there. The labels are nice, but yeah, if you do forget, like hover over that Bermuda one, the putting there.
Yeah.
Like it'll say it's going to be called a green surface Bermuda, all courses, record last 50. So it will tell you what you did if you go back and forget. So, all right, put some numbers in. Let's weigh it. Let's delete a few, weigh things, and see what we come up with here.
Because it's a little bit interesting, and I get your thoughts too. Like short game does matter a little bit because of like, again, some of these are like 400 yard, 420 yard par fours. The guys are going to be driving like almost 400 yards. So like it does capture a little bit of like, we're going to miss some of this like 50 to 75 bucket because they're so close. So I do think having that a little bit matters, but again, we can just, for the sake of keeping it clean, we don't have to do that. So I'm going to keep approach last 6 months here too.
I will push back on that too, because some of that is like, it's just going to capture around the green, and that's just not going to come into play because I don't know how they're going to classify second shots on a par 4 if they're 30 yards out. Like, is that a short game shot or is that an approach? So it's a little confusing on how the stats will treat some of that when you get weird events like this.
Yeah.
More weird courses, more so.
Do you want to capture any of the rough stuff, or should we can make it smaller, right?
Make it smaller.
Right. We'll give it 5 each. Again, some of this is going to be redundant, right? If we're going to capture approach last 6 months in the entire field, and the 75 to 100 bucket from the fairway, like these are all approach, but we know like, hey, this is the one spot where we want to give it a little bit of weight, knowing that we're going to have a higher distribution of approach shots from that bucket. But we also have a decent amount of like 200 plus here as well on some of like the par 5s where we have a little bit of a higher than normal approach from there as well. So I do think having it counts. So what do you want to weigh? What do you want to weigh approach last 6 months?
30%.
Okay.
Lots.
All right. So we got 40 here already. Fairway from 50 to 75, last 9 months, last 50 rounds. What are you thinking? 10?
Keeping these round numbers? 10 each there.
Okay.
Take us to 60.
So again, this is all approach in different buckets.
Yeah,
but essentially we're at 60%, which is fine.
60% scoring, 40% putting. Let's go. You want to go like 15-25 there?
Let's do it. All right, perfect. You can see
I know the next thing I'm going to ask from Tech. I want a little thing at the bottom that adds them up for me.
1,000%. We'll do this show. We will do Sentry. All right.
Yeah. All right. Make sure you save it as an expert. All right. Now, if you have a subscription, you can go find this exact model under the expert models.
Yep. And you can see here, this is what Andy's talking about, right? This is a bunch of stuff I built last year that I don't have to rerun. If it went well, I can just go back in and I can see what I did. I can see how my results went. Then I can go back in and spit out the same model that I did. If it went poorly, I can go back and find out what I want to do. So we're going to save and generate this model, and let's see what we get. Pretty quick too, especially since I'm streaming, so it's not bad. All right. Top of the model,
Oh,
Harris
guess who
English.
Guess who likes his wedges? It's funny. There's quotes from Harris English too about this course saying, "I'm normally not a driver guy, but I'm hitting driver like every hole here just because I can." I think he enjoys it out here. Obviously, he's had some injury concerns, but I'm a Harris English guy, so I don't hate it. And then
I don't either.
Scotty being near the top is pretty normal, but
you feel good
everything
about that.
everything I ran had the postman up there too.
Okay. Yeah, I think the model that I ran had Hoagie at the top as well, which again, where we're going to get into like heavily weighted approach stuff that's going to, lean itself to Tom Hoagie. Now, look, Harris English has won here before recently. So like this makes sense too. And we're not even giving we didn't pull any course history stuff here. And look, he hit some, should we necessarily blind bet our top guy? No, but Harris English is a guy that is interesting to me anyway, at least in terms of finishing positions. Played decently down the stretch a little bit last year, 10th at the BMW, T8 at the US Open, started to turn the corner a little bit and we started to get a little bit more healthy. Last time we saw him was at the RSM where he went T28. So again, he's been playing some okay golf. I don't hate it. Now he is way down the betting board from an outright standpoint. I think there are hundreds out there on Harris English. But again, maybe someone that you want to look at from a matchup standpoint or someone you want to look at maybe from
20.
Finishing position. I think he's also going to get plus money on some stuff down the board. So Scotty feels like he makes sense, right? So Scotty is the top of the board in terms of the outright market. Andy, no matter where you're at, you're basically 550, 6-1 on Scotty. That's tough. Vic is also around 9 or 10. They're the top of the board. Some other guys you'll see where they're at as well. Any interest in going at the top of the board? I haven't seen any of your card. I don't know where you're at, but again, Scotty is getting a bump in terms of when you look here putting. This is not where we expect to see Scotty doing well, but look, we got the putting metrics, slow Bermuda in this field. We're getting Scotty 7th, which I think is really, really interesting.
That's one of those too where it's I want to go back and do some looking. What is driving that? How is was it just a pretty small sample? And even if that is the case, I'm still willing to not say I should drop Scotty to 50th in the model because he only putted a few times on Bermuda greens. But no, I obviously I like it. I don't think I'm going to be betting a 550 this week. I'm looking kind of more in the middle of the field. But like you mentioned with Harris English, there's some guys. Obviously, I mentioned Postman too. JT is probably something I'd look at for a top 10. I think there's a few guys that have some skill sets with some. They could be a little more high volatility. I think that's what we're looking for here. Your steady Eddie cut makers. That's not something you need at a tournament filled with top end players. That is essentially a birdie fest, and everyone knows it. You need some guys who can go off, who can catch fire as far as if their wedges and their putters suddenly start working. You can see some, you can see a 62, 63 out here.
Yeah, and you need that. You have to have low 60s. I mean, we saw last year what happened where we think about Colin collapsing last year and because solid lead, 6-shot lead heading into the final round.
He did not make a bogey in that round.
Right.
He was minus 700 going into the final round, did not make a bogey or worse, and lost the tournament. That's the kind of scores we get here. I had him. That was the start of I knew it was this year's going to be a real treat if I can't even get Colin home at minus 700. But no, that's the fun thing too about this one because no lead's safe, especially heading into just the weekend, obviously. But yeah, some guys I looked at, like you said, Poston, probably Danny McCarthy. A decent maybe look at Jason Day, but again, some of those guys, it's probably going to be top 10 bets.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's tough and we're going to have this kind of predicament all year in terms of how do we approach the top of the board where these guys have massive win equity, especially when you get into a spot where you're eliminating, even though the bottom 100 guys or whatever that are in the field, you're still eliminating 100 other professional golfers when you have these small fields, no cut events, definitely changes the dynamic. So, I'm probably going to pivot in terms of how I do some allocations in terms of unit sizing and stuff like that. Because I think a guy has actual real win equity and I'm I don't really want to go to the top of the board when the guy is 6 or 7-1, but there are going to be times where I think it makes sense to do so this year. So the one that's really interesting at the top of the board or near the top of the board so far is our guy, Ludwig Oberg. We are already there. It already happened, Andy. And he got a win, right? The last time out at the RSM. But there is like, in terms of, hey, I want to be early on this guy. We did last year. We were trying to bet him at like 30 and 25. We are in a loaded fields. And Ludwig is 14 everywhere, basically. Caesars is at plus 950. Which is insane. Now, Chris, there's
1850 out of Chris. So you can get some reasonable numbers, but I mean, Scotty Scheffler, Cantley, Schauffele, Hovland, Morikawa, Homa, Spieth, Hatton, Burns, Fitzy, Sungjae, Cam Young, Fleetwood, Ricky, Tom Kim. Like this isn't the RSM, boys. Like it is crazy what his numbers are going to do. It'll be interesting to see. I hope he scuffles a little, just so I get some better numbers. I think he's going to play well come like spring. I'd love to be betting on him at like Bay Hill and a few places like that. So I kind of hope he plays like shit for a few weeks.
Yeah, I agree. This does not seem a spot where like, and again, like the whole game is there. That's why we're here. But a spot where like we can really reward his accuracy off the tee. I don't think we necessarily get that here. But again, like he has the whole bag, and that's why he is already won. That's why he held up in spades at the Ryder Cup, and why he's already at this price, which I think is very interesting in terms of having a handful of 7 guys or so short of 20, and this kid is already there. So we wasted no time. I want to look at the back end of this. Let's look at this real quick and just look at the upside down. Last in the model here is Jason Day, which I think is interesting. Wyndham Clark, Justin Rose, Kurt Kitayama, who I've heard talked about. You mentioned Denny, Tommy here. These are some other guys that are at the bottom. Jordan, which I think makes a lot of sense. I've heard like the Jordan and Sahith corollary where like they're really hot and cold. They can spray it off the tee, and it doesn't really matter here too much. You can still get rewarded here. Anyone that's surprising to you to see here at the very bottom of the model?
Yeah, I mean, I guess Jason, but some of that approach that makes sense. Some of the short approach, the short irons, I guess that checks out. He doesn't have a lot of. We don't have a lot of putting stats for some of these guys. Denny being kind of low. We might have to go for a bigger sample size in some of the putting.
Interesting. We didn't get any rough here for Denny either. Rough from 50 to 75, which is
I think we'll have to go for.
It is kind of a weird range. We don't get a massive volume from there.
Yeah, and if some of these guys like haven't played this course, obviously maybe that's a secondary factor we're looking at with some of these players. Where hey, should we avoid this guy just because he hasn't played here a lot or at all? In some cases, I don't think Vincent Norman was in the field over the previous Tournament of Champions.
Correct.
Kind of plays. Scroll down just a little. I mean, Akshay makes sense. He should be down there. Hadwin's fine. I'm fine with Hadwin being a bit of a fade this week. And Thigala, middle of the pack. That's fine.
Yeah. I want to get behind it. I know like he's a buzzy, like this is a guy that's going to take a leap this year. There's a ton of talent there. Everything is so like just it feels so unpredictable to me in terms of like when he has got it. I feel like he's a live guy, right? You bet him live. He looks like he's on, whether it's, something that round or, in tournament where he's piecing some stuff together. He seems like a guy that's got to be a little bit more consistent for me to want to trust him. So he's a tricky one for me. So this is again, like you can,
I haven't placed any bets yet on this one. It was going to be this afternoon. Well, I got behind on golf because we missed Monday, and then obviously had some tech issues to sort out yesterday. But I haven't made any bets. And a good question here in the chat from Seb said, interested to hear about your investment strategy with no recent form, e.g. I'm avoiding top 10s, etc. Because I don't know if they're in form, so only want to bet upside. It is a little bit of a tricky part of the year with that because of who's in form, who might be in form. We don't really know. Is this one working? There we go. Look at us.
There we go.
Here. A lot of these guys, you haven't seen them play golf for quite a while at this point. We don't know. Maybe there's something to be said for, hey, here's a guy I think I like. I think his course stats match up well. I like his price. Go
go look at last year. Maybe he didn't play here, but go look how he played at Sony, Amex, a couple of the early tournaments, even up to Waste Management. See, is there a consistent pattern of, boy, this guy sucks shit in January, or he comes back and plays well despite having played, virtually no swing season events or something like that. I don't know if that's, everybody might be doing it different each December, where some guys say, I need to get in extra rounds down in Arizona this December because I need to figure some stuff out. But, maybe something to go off there. I know it's so hard to predict form here. I think I'm going to be doing a lot more round by round, head-to-head kind of betting here. But I think my top 10 strategy, top 20s just aren't going to be priced that well with a smaller field, is going to be based on just some longer shots that I like, that I feel like, I might put a small outright on them, but a top 10 on like an 80-1 is kind of where I'm at with some of these bigger number guys.
That makes sense. I do think so. There's a couple of things here, right? Where we run into this in the swing season, and you run into it here, obviously in like January in particular, maybe even February in terms of what matters. I do think that this being a signature event now, this being, status elevated in terms of prize pool, in terms of FedEx Cup points, I think it matters. So I do think this is not like,
no, it's not a fuck off tournament.
Yeah, it's not training camp in the 80s. So these guys are like, have been just like, smoking cigs and like just, hitting balls with the kids, the range. Like, I think these guys are coming in ready. I think a lot of these guys don't fall out of form. Now, again, competitive golf form versus like, playing, games with your buddies and cash games at the club, I think are a little bit different. But I do think because of the status of the event, I think, and knowing that like course history has shown up and mattered here a little bit, looking at guys that have played here and have played here well over the years, I think I'm okay with maybe leaning into that a little bit more than say we would at a typical event, because that's kind of all we have to go off of. So I would like to have seen a guy play here even one time and have had some success. And that's why like Harris English popping at the top of the board makes some sense. As you mentioned, like, might not be an outright play. Let's see where we're at for Harris English from an outright play. I think we're like around 100 or so. And again, like it's a little rich. There are 90s, 120 on Chris, right? That's rich. But like Harris English, the T20, 2-1, 2-1s are out there, plus 180 or so. So
yeah, I like that. And yeah, like you mentioned, this isn't Tiger's tournament from a month ago in, what was it? The Bahamas? Why can't I think of that?
Yeah. Hero at the Bahamas. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a $20 million purse with $3.6 million to the winner. That's the same as, the RBC, the Wells Fargo, the Travelers, St. Jude, BMW. This is a bigger pot than the RBC Canadian, Valero, any of those secondary, Charles Schwab Farmers, the Genesis. I mean, this is a bigger pot than Phoenix Open isn't signature this year. So this is a $20 million pot. Guys aren't going to be, hey, I'm going to bring the kids. We're going to get some beach time. I'm going to goof around. It's a legit event that matters a lot towards the end of the year standings. And if you're money motivated, you're doubly money motivated for anything that gives you a lot of points to head towards, getting into the deep part of the playoffs in the summer.
I typically like to bet T40s because these guys that typically like get down here that I like are longer shots that I just really like. They profile well, maybe like a place I want to allocate outright funds to. Obviously, we're not getting a T40 market in a 59-man field, but Bet Rivers and DraftKings are offering T30 markets, which again is, I think, pretty interesting. Now, again, we'll reference Harris English. I have a few more. Harris English minus 120 to T30 here, which again, like, you love laying juice in golf finishing position bets, but again, like this is kind of where we're at this week. So those are available out there too. Again, not every book, and you could price those out there as well. You have not made any outright bets. I've made one. I'm considering a couple others, but I've made one, and I went to the well on Matthew Fitzpatrick. Thought the number was bad. He last year, this is his first time coming last year. He was part of the group with Scheffler and Spawn that were in second behind Morikawa. Rahm was one stroke behind those guys. And again, like played really good golf, just, not as good as Colin did. 66, 69, 66 in his first 3 rounds here. played well. He had a T10 at Augusta last year as well. So like that correlate kind of ties together. He closed at 20-1 last year in worse form and having played here, and is coming in better form and is 30-1. So I like that quite a bit. There's still a 30 out there. There's some 22s out there. So it's moved a little bit, but again, you can shop and find a 30. And again, finished the year on a high note. He finished T9 or better in 5 of his final 7 starts, including the BMW, including the Tour Championship. He won comfortably on the DP World Tour in October. He won the Alfred Dunhill Links. Again, not an elite par 4 scorer historically, but these are like different, as we talked about, par 4 scoring, and like he's really good in like bomb and wedge stuff. Really good short game. I think he's, some stuff like shorter wedges is good, and a really strong. I think when we had him up here in the slow Bermuda putting, he's 4th, so we know he can score here on slow Bermuda greens. So my only outright bet at 30. Got that at Caesars, but I think there's still some 30s on Fitzpatrick. So other guys that I was circling with like Morikawa, I like Homa, and I like Scotty, but do I want to play those prices? I don't think I want to. So only one right now in the bag is Fitz.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same thing. Like I really like Cantlay's fit. I don't like him as a person. I'm certainly not super interested at like 10-1. Same thing with Victor. Obviously, I love Victor as a person. He's an awesome dude, a lot of fun. But another one where it's like, hey, it's 12-1. Xander, oh, you're like 11, 12-1. Eric Cole, I don't know. Everyone's
Friend of the show.
Everyone's kind of, I don't know. Are we out? Are we just out now? Is it time? I'm trying to find his price here right now on this. 70. See, it's all these guys in the 70s that I'm loving. I'm probably I'm going to look at Cole. I'm going to look at Poston. I'm going to look at Russ Henley at around 50 and maybe Keegan and find some good top 10, top 20 prices. I'm not sure I'll have a full-on outright. Like, I've seen a lot of people play on Morikawa. I don't know if I can after what he did to me last year. Like Aubert is way too low. Home at 18. Home at 18 is interesting. And I did just finish up my model, and I guess he's not super high. I have him 17th. He gets drugged down a little by his Bermuda or his birdies or better rate over the last 50 rounds, but everything else obviously checks out. He's just, I did a just strokes gained total where it's just, hey, over the last 12 months, all courses, like what's your total? Just kind of a placeholder for form in general. And obviously he's super high in that spot. That's going to bring him up. Same thing with Eric Cole. Eric Cole's not too far behind him in the field and something like that. So yeah, Homa approach could be better, but it looks like he has a decent chipping game. His putting is good. Like I might look at that. So tentatively, what's the best price you're seeing on Maxi?
Your 18 at Chris is by far the best out there. 14's everywhere else. There's some 12s even. So 18 is great.
Yeah, just to have somebody to cheer for. But obviously Poston, like I said, Poston, Cole, Henley, a couple other guys I'll look at. I'll put them in the Discord for sure once I price it all out and figure out who I'm betting. And then this afternoon we'll be looking at head-to-head prices.
Yeah, love it. The other guy not quite at the top of the board, kind of in that next fold, similar to where Fitz was, that I might add. The only other outright that I'm really considering, because I just don't want to pay the freight. And I'm probably gonna have maybe a lot of times I just come on here and I probably bet like, you know what, I got a 2-man card. I bet Vic and Homa. I'm just folding up shop, and that's who I'm betting this week. Like that's gonna happen a handful of times this year. I don't want to start that way, and I don't think like their skill sets are like highlighted here per se. Though again, like you're never going to find me talking ill will about either of their games. Sanjay M at 35 is really interesting. Has played well here before. Has never finished worse than T13 and has gotten better every year. And he's played, again, he plays so frequently. He's played really good golf down the stretch. Again, like form is really fickle because we haven't seen these guys as much. But Sanjay has been playing really well. I like this for him. We can get birdies, but like you played the Korean Genesis T2 there, BMW, he was 7th. FedEx Cup at St. Jude, he was 6th. Zozo, he was 12th. Just been playing really good golf. And I think he really likes it here. So Sanjay is interesting to me. It's not a guy that I back in an outright market a lot. Like, so I might look at finishing positions, but 35 feels like a pretty good number. And I think that's the best out there. So that's the other one that I haven't added. And he's 28 at Chris. So that's like upside down comparatively, where we're talking about all these other guys being, better at Chris, which is a really sharp, bookmaking, price making book. Whereas there's some 35s on
about Homa.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, he's so short still. So that's tougher. But yeah, when you get into these guys that are down in the 30s a little bit, when you get he's sub 30 on Chris and 35 out there at domestics, I think Sanjay is interesting too. So
yeah.
I did one of my favorite little, anyone who was, betting professionally will tell you I'm a donkey. I tell you I'm a donkey when I do it. I love my finishing position parlays. You throw a Scotty and Sanjay T20 together, which I know is poorly correlated and the math doesn't math and it's bad. They're fun. I want to get access to Scotty doing well. I parlay his T20 with Sanjay T20 plus 135 on FanDuel, which is an interesting bet to me. So that's one deep down the board. Another finishing position guy that I want to mention, not an outright play for me, but Eric Van Rooyen's been playing some really good golf.
Yeah, I saw his name brought up and I dug in. Minnesota golfer.
Yeah, it's one of your guys. Like in the spring and the summer were terrible. He just miscut all the time. But he won the second Worldwide Technology Championship of the season, right? That was the El Cardinal one.
Diamante.
Like he has gained strokes on approach in 5 straight. That does not include the win because they didn't have any shot link data captured there. T25 here.
I will assume he gained strokes on the field that day.
I think he probably gained strokes on his win. And again, like he played here last year, 2022, T25. So at least he's been here before. And like I said, Bet Rivers is going to take a T30 bet there at plus money. I think DraftKings as well, plus 140 for him to come in the top half of the field. I like it. And he's playing pretty good golf. So that'd be a deeper down the board, bomb that I'm not interested in getting into an outright bet on, but I think he's going to play some good golf. So that's all I got.
Yeah, I'm about there. I'll post some stuff. I'll have a newsletter out here in a few hours. I'll put some thoughts in that I have after a little more research in there. Do my own research. But yeah, it's probably going to be a lighter card on the outrights, and I'll have to take a look at what we have. I know when you have a smaller field, the head-to-heads tend to be less, but it's usually not by a lot because it's still, they're not making head-to-head markets for the Monday qualifiers and the guys in on sponsors exemptions at the bottom of the field. It's still just mostly the top to middle of the field anyway. So I feel like we might have a good offering. I just haven't run my numbers on any of it yet. I will get to that. I'm happy that until we get to the farmers, we will have a normal week of prep for most of it. I got to remember that week to start on Sunday. Ahead of that, everybody, I think the schedule's the same this year. Should we do that as our last favor to the crowd? Anyone who's listening, watching?
Yeah. There's there are some wrinkles that are a little different.
Well, I think that's the one that
it starts Wednesday.
It starts the Farmers Insurance Open, January 24th through the 27th. It does start on Wednesday. That's in 3 weeks from this tournament. So next week we're at Sony, the week after Amex and La Quinta, and then the Farmers Open. Remember, you have 1 fewer days because they do not want golf going up against the NFC and AFC title games. Makes sense. If you guys stuck around, or even if you didn't, and you're watching this later, hit a thumbs up. I would love that. If you listen as a podcast, I'd love you to rate and review. That helps us out. If you want to help us out at all, if you want to get access to the custom database that we built our models on, obviously go over to betspertsgolf.com. You can get that deal with the vivid picks. You can get $5. If that's not something you want to do, we'll offer discounts all year. Honestly, if you just want to try it out for a little bit, you can DM either one of us. We can probably get you a promo code to try it out for a week or two. Hit us up. If you have any questions, hit us up. If you want to join the Discord, there are some free channels in there. Hit us up. Otherwise, we'll check you next week for more Hawaiian action. We'll see you then, guys.